Welcome everybody, it is time for that video. I post one every year. It's usually a long one, it's usually quite boring, but it is me going over everything that's launched on Odd Alerts in the last year, and also taking a look forward and planning out some future features, some of which are coming very soon. I'll get the glasses on for this, I think it could be a long one. So there was quite a lot of things added in January, especially towards the end, and I think one of the most important things was the data downloads page. This was heavily requested. It's a page that lets you download the last 6 months worth of data for the probability model, so you can create your own systems quite quickly, especially if you're good at Excel. Odd Alerts is just about connecting football and data. That is something I've learned myself over the last 3.5 years. At first it was just about sending alerts on football games. But at its core, it is just how can you interact with football data, and that is the vision going forward. So data downloads towards the end of January, that was an important page, and and it's not just the probability model that you can get from there. You can get upcoming player stats, referee stats. You can also download the upcoming trends pages as a CSV as well. So yeah, there was a big push here to just let people grab the data in different ways, because at this point people were beta/beta testing the API. I was surprised with how many people were willing to give it a go, experiment, and just create something. And I think a lot more people are used to working with CSVs and spreadsheets because of their jobs or something than coding. So yeah, it made sense to launch the downloads page, and it was a productive end to the month for sure. You can see then referee data was able to be got. William Hill was added to the odds movement database. Team goals was added to the value bets page, and there was other value bet improvements as well. And then at the end of January, something that I'd wanted to do for ages, but just didn't have the data, and it wasn't the most important thing in the world. But it comes back to just connecting football and data, and it was the TV guide page. So if you've not seen this, I will just open it quickly and show it you. This is the page, and I'll be honest, this was just something I wanted for a long time, because I may or may not have an Amazon Fire Stick, and it may or may not have some software on there that may or may not give you access to a lot of channels from around the world. And when you want to watch just random football, you can go on this page, and it's ordered by time, so the intention is like you're just on your Amazon Fire Stick that you may or may not have, and you can just open this and you're like, okay, Motherwell Rangers 12, might check that out. Some Thai football, harder to get obviously, but it still tells you that it's on Bet365, and you can stream it on there. Wolves against Chelsea, you can see that it will give you all of these TV channels around the world that you can just maybe find them if there's a search function on this thing that you may or may not have. So that's a TV guide. There are certainly things that I want to change about it. Those kind of features, you have to get them done quickly, because as I said, it's not important. It's if I was to spend a week on the TV guide, and there's people that have requested features, and there's bugs and stuff like that, you've got to be able to justify spending that time on it, So yeah, some updates that I want to have. There's obviously the TV page as well, which is it's basically YouTube but for football within Odd Alerts. And these two features, I think if more people knew about them, they would be great. So I need to work on the SEO, I need to work on the marketing, maybe try and automate some marketing for both of those pages. And I think one feature going forward that's just going to unlock all of these little mini pages that I've built into Odd Alerts so far is just a new fixture experience, because for a lot of features at the moment, you have to come out of the fixture. You have to go somewhere else, whether it's player stats, video highlights, the map feature, which, these are things I'm saying that maybe a lot of people have never even heard of. And that's on me, right? But I have to be able to hook them all together, and I think that's, again, I said it last year, I think that's sort of the transition, bringing everything together into one place. And some of these things are close, as I'll get to later in the video. So in February, we had updates to the API, and there was also something called scene labels, which were introduced. And this is a small thing, but a big thing, if you know what I mean. Didn't take too long to develop, and if you've got filters and you've already seen a game, it will now show you if you've already seen it, because a lot of people, time zone dependent, some games will be added on Bet365, they'll open the filter, and then some games get added at midnight or something, and it's hard to just remember which games you've seen. So this label solved that. So February was a good month as well, quite productive. My birthday in February, so usually there is a slowness at times towards the end of the month, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So a new category was added on the main page, an alerts section, so you can just see all of the games and load all of the stats for the games that you've got alerts set on. Again, something really small, and I think that came from someone in the Discord, but a massive time saver for so many people. Pinnacle availability alerts then launched, and this isn't to be confused with the new Pinnacle dropping odds. This was the ability to get availability alerts on Pinnacle games. So tell me when Pinnacle adds corner markets for the Premier League, card markets for Liga 1 or whatever. And that was a big launch, to be fair. So many people asking for that because, of course, Pinnacle, a sharp bookmaker, one of the sharpest. So you want to know what they're opening at, to be honest. Into March, and this was, again, something that I'd wanted to build for so long, but you've just got to keep pushing it up the priority list. You've got to somehow justify it, and I think predictions launching the first kind of social feature on Odd Alerts where you can, you know what, I'll just show you. So this is predictions, and I'm recording this on Sunday morning, so the winner has just been crowned for this game week. The game weeks run Sunday to Sunday, and I've got to say I was stunned by the amount of predictions being made and the way that people have continued to make predictions. Because retention is hard. I understand that retention is hard, and it could be much easier to make a prediction on the site. It could be much easier. That's something I want to improve for sure. Again, it all comes into that fixture and how I was saying there's things that have been built and added as separate pages, not yet fully linked into the fixture. So it just brings home the importance of the fixture overhaul. So congratulations to Rob. And if we look at the month of December, I'm going to give away something. I'm going to say I've not announced it. I've not thought about it, but I want it to be something quite good. So if we click on December here, Rob is in the lead, but it is close. Rustam, who I think won, I don't know how many game weeks in a row, maybe 3 or 4. He's a bit like the Man City of the Odd Alerts Predictions League at the moment. And as I say, I'm really pleased with the engagement and stuff. And if you finish top, right now you win a month of Pro or $12.99 credits. So there's people that were paying for the API or season ticket, and they're just knocking money off their next payment or the current payment or whatever. So the way it works is it uses the Odd Alerts probability model to turn what it predicts for an outcome and turns that into points. So you can win points. So you're sort of betting against the probability model, which is an interesting thing to do, I think. And it's also good feedback for the model. So that's predictions. If you are used to Odd Alerts, you probably used it. If not, you can add a prediction here. You can add one in the individual fixture as well. But this little tool is quite nice. And this is when I was just sort of experimenting with different ways to filter games. And that new homepage that is coming will use something like this. And the end goal is to have a homepage where you don't need to go to a predictions page, because it's just everything is just on that homepage essentially. So if you wanted to look at home wins, you can just filter really, really quickly on the probability model, and then you can click into a game and you get the options to add to your predictions. I could just go home win and save. I won't, because I'm only going to get 1.26 points if that does win. There is a predictions spotlight, and there is also a commentator. I don't know what to call them, announcements. Again, I can maybe make this a little bit better, maybe make it a bit more prominent as well, because it is quite interesting. It's fun to read. And I think it's helped with the general engagement, the Discord as well, people keeping track of the game weeks. And even with all that, I'm still quite surprised by the retention and how many people add predictions, because I must admit I forget, but that's, I'm working on the site, it's a bit different. I guess if you're coming back to the site each day, whether that's to do value bets or just look at quick filters, whilst you're on a fixture, you might as well click the predictions tab, right? March also saw my first experiment with AI, and I will just take you to it now. It is the AI press conference, and you can select a manager. So I will look at Sam Allardyce, and he's saying, come on then, what are you eating for Christmas, Sam? And he will get back to me. Well, I'll tell you what, I won't be eating for Christmas: a salad, that's for sure. I'll be tucking into a feast fit for a king. This is, it's fun. And again, it's just something that lives on Odd Alerts, and probably a lot of people haven't come across it. There was an initial push when it launched, of course, but it's not the most useful thing in the world, to be honest. It's just a little bit of fun as I was, myself learning about AI and what it can do. And I took that knowledge and applied it into the rest of the site, as you'll see later in the video. So you can see some future updates. There's a feature, and then there's also you can talk to Sam Allardyce now on the AI press conference. So yeah, Predictions Spotlight launch, which is where you can see the top 10% of users and their upcoming predictions. A new API endpoint, which was /fixtures, and this was as I was readying to launch the full version of the API a little bit later in the year. I introduced a new Learn page, which I do need to update, to be honest. I did commit to one piece of content a week whilst that was launching, and I'll just show it you now. This is the Learn page, and it's, it was part because there wasn't a tutorial section, so to speak, with Odd Alerts. There could be some images in here. It could be a bit more visual. That's the first thing I think when I look at it now. And, more content, because I've looked at the data for these pages, and they're getting quite a few views, especially from Google, which was the main reason of setting it up, to be honest, just to try and get people in, because I do believe, if you use other stat sites or data sites, I do believe that Odd Alerts is better set up for you, in terms of the design and stuff like that. I love the data on FBref, for example, but design-wise, it is just very clunky, very mathematical, I would say, which again is fine for certain people, but I like things to be quick, easy to understand, and I believe a lot of other people do too. This was a tutorial section, and most of these tutorials come with a bit of text and a video, so it's sort of a screencast. And again, I should possibly add those videos to the sort of preview that you get here, because I think it would increase the click rate. Maybe you could even just watch the video in here. Maybe it could just be a feed of videos with the accompanying text or whatever. Some of them are just articles. So this is one about managing your mind when you're betting, and being mindful about how the bookmaker will try and play to emotions and stuff like that. So some of them were just things that I like to think about and talk about. And yeah, I will definitely be adding more stuff to that, because again, it's just one of those sections that I've launched and then something else has come along that I've wanted to build, and I've jumped ship, so to speak. And speaking of ships, ships sail on the ocean, which you can see on this next feature. It is the football map. Now this ties into what I was doing at this time. So I was actually traveling. We went for about a month around Europe. And I was like, well, I would like to watch some football. So if you go to, I think it's a football map. So this is the Odd Alerts map page. And as I said, I was traveling in and around Europe. We went to Germany, Austria, and Italy. And let's say I was in Italy and I was in the north of Italy or something. I could just go on this map and go, okay, there's a game here. Maybe we could get the train, and then we could stay around here, check out this area and stuff. It wasn't based around football, my travels, but this map certainly helped. Oh yeah, there's a really nice rock in that location. Let's go here. And you can click on the game. You can see Parma are hosting Ternana, and then you can check out the channels and you can check out the stats as well. So again, that was just something, a little side project, passion project, whatever. Something that somebody suggested as well, which was very interesting, is to sort of have some overlays on here that represent something. So one thing that there is some data to back up, or so I've heard, is that colder weather produces fewer goals, so especially at the extremes. So if you could see all the games where it was like -3 or whatever, they're going to be wearing snoods, they're going to be wearing gloves, it's freezing, it is below freezing. There is apparently fewer goals. I'd have to test the data myself to say that with some authority, but you can see how it might make sense. So April is when we did the sort of main bit of traveling, I would say. So back-end improvements, fixture feed improvements. Yeah, small things that I could get done in sort of an hour or two, just going to a coffee shop or something mid-traveling. or train rides, stuff like that. More features were added to predictions, bug fixing, and ranking improvements on predictions. And then into May, more improvements to the dataset pages, more download options. Football transfer news page was launched, which was just to sort of try and, again, football and data, how can we bring them together? What are people talking about right now? Transfers, what are people looking to find information on? Can I present it in some way that is, different or better than the other places? And for a lot of pages, that is very true, and I can do it because I don't have adverts. I'm not... The only thing on Odd Alerts that matters is the data. That's the only thing that matters. Are you able to understand the data? Are you getting what you came for? And on other sites where you're not the main concern, advertisers are the main concern, or clicks are the main concern, or where your eyeball is the main concern, they're going to look different, aren't they? They're going to feel different. More updates into June on predictions and real world ROI. So this allowed you to use your prediction data, all the predictions that you've been adding to get up the rankings and whatnot. It would allow you to see your actual P&L using the odds history table, so you could see what profit you would have got. And that's at the core, really, of predictions and why it launched. Yes, it's social. Yes, you can rank. Yes, you can win things. But that's why it works in terms of making you better at predicting, I think. Because if you see that your score is low or something, or you see on the other side of the coin you're doing well, then you'll want to make better predictions. If the incentive to win is not money, in this case, and also there's restrictions that aid better decisions, which is, when predictions launch, you could only make 4 predictions per day. So straight away, you're thinking, well, they better be good, right? Later in the year, not sure where, but we might come across it, it opened up to 28 per week. So it's the same number of predictions, but I didn't want to tie people to the day, because if you miss a day, you feel like, I can't get them back. And that was a very valid point, a very valid bit of feedback. And I felt it, especially when I was traveling. I forgot to do my predictions because people have lives, right? I don't expect Odd Alerts to be in the front of every single user's mind every single moment of the day. Even for me, the creator, the developer, the marketer, it's on my mind all the time. And even I forgot to do my predictions whilst I was on holiday. Now, I was definitely back home by June because the advanced player search tool, this was something that I'd really wanted to build for a while. Being able to search through player stats really quickly. Let me show you this page. So this is the page, over 1,000 players in the pool, and the pool is all games that have player markets of any kind available on Bet365. So straight away, the intent with this tool is finding players for certain markets. You can't see the drop down, but there is a ton of options here. I'll just demo some. So if we look at tackles, for example, we can then put this to, let's go 1.5 per game. We can then click this to sort all of the players. We'll just search. And even then, with just 2 rules and a sorting option, you get a clear idea of the top players for a certain stat or something. And then you can add in maybe total tackles over 50 or whatever. I don't know what the averages would be for that. But you've got, just to list off some of the options, you've got duels in here, crosses, passes, shots, cards, the substitute out percentage, which is a very important one. If you've got a player that you're on for shots or fouls or something, if they get subbed off in 8 out of 10 games, you probably want to avoid them. So that's something you can do. And this page is really cool. I love it. And again, there are so many things that I want to add into it and will add into it soon, including much, much deeper data. The bottleneck with that is that they're 2 different data sources. So one of them is all of the data that you've seen on player stats pages for the past couple of years. And the other one is a new source that I've got, which has, XG per player, expected assists, distance covered, progressions, progressive passes, touches in the box, all these kind of really deep data points that turns this from a player search tool to a player scouting tool, I believe. That is something that will be in the Odd Alerts lab pretty soon, which is season ticket holders, early access, API users, early access as well. So that was the player search and also player comparison. So this is the player comparison tool. And again, this was inspired by what was sort of going on at the minute. Transfer window, people were comparing players, you know. A funny one was Mason Mount and Dominic Szoboszlai. So if we get the data, we can see there that is pretty, that's pretty correct, isn't it? And the good thing about this one, I mean, look at all the data. This is what I was saying before. This is what's coming to the other player search tool. And to be honest, that it should all just be combined. There should just be a players page where it is the scout tool. That's the end goal, because again, you have an idea, you build the tool that compares players and creates these radar charts, and then it just lives there. And you get feedback on it, you improve it, which has happened, but it's pretty solid. If we were to add progressive passes here, you can see that it just instantly updates, and you can get a real overview of the two players. You can select any of these, tackles one, let's say, and you can see that actually it brings them a bit closer. Tackles in attacking third, interesting one, both pretty high, but Mason Mount actually with a bit more there. Tackles in the middle third, I would guess Szoboszlai is ahead, and he's not, Mason Mount. So Mason Mount actually does a good bit of work in that middle. And this is comparing the last full season. So again, one update that will come is that it uses live data. The reason for it using all of the data from last season is just because it was complete. It was a good overview. It's a good picture. You can see Szoboszlai's last season and Mount's last season. So that's the player comparison page. Again, pretty happy with that, but it just needs to be unified within a players page, which will be coming soon. So also in July, we had some UI updates for predictions, the ability to merge bankrolls in bet tracking, which was a very common request. And then July ended with Copilot, Odd Alerts Copilot. Let me show you this. So this is Odd Alerts Copilot. It's this button at the top of the feed. You can click it at any time, and it will give you a preview that has been created by the Copilot. So it's for an under-19s game here. It says it's in 9 hours, and it gives you a prediction as well. You can click next to get another preview from the Copilot, and we can see here that this team's away record could be a game changer. So that was Copilot, and then more updates to the API. New value bet markets were added, and Odd Alert sponsored its first ever football player, Harvey McAdam. It would not be the last player either. The XG page was updated for the new season, more API updates as well in August, and on the 1st of September, there was a few things, a few big launches. The first ever episode of That Football Stats podcast was released. That is a podcast that I've created. It's just me talking about football predictions and stuff. I actually had my brother on the latest episode, so that's something I probably want to do in the future. Get some guests on, talk about football, talk about their teams or whatever. Again, it goes back to football data. How can we connect it, and how can we bring it to people? And one mode of transport is certainly a podcast. September was a pretty big month. So you've got the podcast launching, you've got the API launching to the public. It had been beta tested by season ticket holders for nearly a year and a half, I think. So huge thanks to them, because a lot of them moved over to the API as well, which is great, because it means it's useful, right? If people want to continue accessing that data, it means they're actually getting a use out of it, which is great. If you look around, other APIs that are designed for football fans and football bettors and people that already want the data kind of formatted and stuff for them, in terms of like stats and odds, it's geared around context rather than just throwing all of the data at you, which data companies do. It's not as easy to understand, I feel. So the API launched, which also meant season ticket sales had closed. If you're not aware, season tickets get you access to the Odd Alerts lab, which will let you test new things first throughout the next year. You also test things as a season ticket holder that never even go live, or test things that you'll test them and then they don't go live for maybe another year or something. There's been little cases of that as well. That's why it's called the lab. It's kind of like Apple. They made the iPad first, or that was what they wanted to build first. That's why they were developing the touchscreen tech. But then they made it, and the lab saw it, and then they put it on the shelf, made the phone, got that back down from the shelf later and continue to make it. Also in September, new Pinnacle data source. This was a big one. I'd have my eye on some new odds sources, always looking to improve the speed and accuracy of all data on odd alerts, of course. Like that's, Pinnacle is a great name, and this Pinnacle data is perfect. This is why the drop in odds alerts were launched pretty much the next day after I got my hands on this data and saw how, how I was saying about the Odd Alerts API is just perfect to digest and understand in terms of that context. If it's a trends endpoint, you just add what trend you want and you get all the teams ranked. That's sort of just what you want. It's contextual. And I feel like this Pinnacle data source is as well. It's got all the odds history baked into it as well, which is just really, really good, because for the other odds data source that I've been working with for the past 2-3 years, I'm creating the odds movement myself. I'm actually doing that work on top of their API, same with the odds history now as well. This Pinnacle data source that I've got now is so good because they only focus on Pinnacle, right? That's the only thing they care about. But the other odds sources, if they're focusing on bringing you 100 bookmakers, the latency between updates might be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, which for most cases is okay. For some bookmakers, it is near live on the current source as well, Bet365 being one of the main ones. And I think, again, once those sources are all in and merged, then you can expect some kind of odds explorer page, right? And again, I'm not trying to please any advertiser. I'm not trying to please any affiliate, which is a massive thing with any odds comparison site you go to right now. So after getting that Pinnacle data, the next thing I built was a dropping odds tool for dropping odds alerts for Pinnacle, automated, always on. You can set up the settings to access these. To test them out, you just go to oddalerts.com/pinnacle. There's a video, and then you've got your settings here. Coming soon is the ability to have settings per market, but right now you can select which market, you can select the odds. You can also adjust the time frame here as well and turn them on and off. That's a pretty solid launch. That is a pretty big thing to launch, and the price of Odd Alerts has stayed the same this year, $12.99, and this coming in, adding value to that subscription. I've seen Pinnacle dropping odds tools that are not as fast, that charge more for the tool alone, and the value prop on Odd Alerts is incredible. I'm not just blowing my own trumpet. I mean, I am inadvertently, but it just clearly is. More updates to the API after it launched, adding bankrolls and bets. So this is the bet tracking on Odd Alerts. You can now access it through the API, which is pretty cool. So you can create your own spreadsheets and scripts and little, analytics or whatever based on all of your data. And of course, you set them on Odd Alerts and then it automatically settles for you. So you can create a quite a nice flow with that. Back-end updates to the site-wide search. This is just this thing. If we type in Premier League, we'll see some Premier League games here, ordered by time. So we've got games on Christmas Eve, actually. So we're into October now, actually, and improvements to quick alerts from trends. Brand new advanced player search. Let me just show you that. This has not been launched yet, but this was, again, something that made use of the new data that I showed you before on the player comparison page. So you've got all of those. Again, you can't see them because it's a natural drop down, so it's not recorded. Let me just create a filter quickly and then get back to you. Sort by shots on target percentage. We will select forwards here. We'll just add a rule for goals as well. Let's say they've scored 5 or more. This is a very basic example of the advanced search tool. So we're searching, we'll see Evan Ferguson. Shot on target percentage is what we are sorting by, and you can see you've got 72%, and it just shows you the 90s here. And it's very basic at the minute, but it was just an example of how you can use all of the powerful data that has been brought in, but I need to connect those players. And this is the scout tool, essentially. This is what the player page will become, with more options, more visuals, but I do like the simplicity of the list in the right hand side, the ability to save shortlists and stuff as well. I was quite inspired by FM this year when I played FM, and the way you find players on there. I just thought there's got to be other people that have been, playing FM. I think they sold like 10 million copies last year, which is absolutely bonkers. So how many FM players would also appreciate Odd Alerts? That was the thought process, because I certainly do. I like the way you search for players on FM. It's not perfect, but I can improve on that, I think. As I said before, Pinnacle dropping odds, there was more features added to that, new trends, endpoints as well. A new odds comparison page. Now, you can see I'm kind of gearing up to launch a few new pages, and I've launched them as tests first. So the odds comparison page, it looks like this. You've got the fixture list on the left, and then you just select a fixture. So we can say Samut Prakan, and it gives you the latest odds here. So I actually built this for that other data source as a way of testing it, and it was quite interesting. I thought, okay, I need to just quickly see what games there are, click on them, and then load them with this new data source, just so I can quickly see a visual, right? But then that just sort of turns into a tool that you can use as well. And again, I'm just connecting data here. I'm just bringing the odds to you, and I want to strike home one thing. If you take away one thing from this odds comparison tool, is that I think once it fully launches and once people use it, they won't want to use another odds comparison tool. That's how it has to feel, because the advantage of Odd Alerts here is massive. I don't care about advertisers. I don't care about affiliates. If you find the best odds here, good. Wow, that's great for you. I'll highlight them in green. I'll make improvements to the page. I'll allow you to favorite bookmakers. I'll allow you to favorite games and maybe make predictions from this page, or add to bet tracking quickly, or set trackers on the odds pre-game. But what I won't do, and what I will never do, is when you click on Bet365, or when you click and find the best odds, I won't make money from your losses on that bookmaker. And that's how the other sites work. It's how affiliate deals work in this industry. And honestly, Odd Alerts, from day one of the goals was to just not need to rely on that. I'm a strong believer in just design and context, right? If you just build an experience around a certain thing, and the end goal is to just make doing that thing very easy, fun, enjoyable, then long term, more people will want to use your product. I think one thing I will build soon is an actual Odd Alerts Lab page where you can quickly see all of the things that are in development. I think that would be a nice page to build. So into November, and we added some more markets to the predictions, so to the predictions game, over and under 1.5 and 4.5, because they were added to the API as well, and to the probability model. So yeah, why not? Into December, new probability values on the API. The API allowed you to now see all of the data for the over-under markets. And as I said at the top of the video, there are new markets coming soon for the probability model and for the value bets page, front end and API as well. Users can now pay with Revolut, and something that I've missed from this updates page but was also added is the ability to pay with PayPal. And that was a big help, to be honest, because PayPal payments were manual for the first like 3 years, and I had to set on my to-do list that this expired at this moment, and it was supposed to be a short-term thing. So I was just glad that I got round to adding that, because it's taken a lot of it's given me a lot of time, should I say. That updates page, I forget to update it when it's an API update, because it's, you know, I'm coding in a different place for the API as well, and those updates there, they seem to be more front-end updates. So we can see here, this is a new endpoint that's added, and it is a stats endpoint, and this leads me into what's coming next for Odd Alerts as well, because the way this is being created and saved and cached and everything is a new data structure that I'm building that will power a new fixtures component, a new filtering tool, which essentially is a new front page. And then once that core thing, filtering tool, is there ready, that lets you view stats as well straight away using this new API endpoint. So just to show you this endpoint first, this is calling the stats for the Premier League season. So we can see West Ham played 18, we can see games won, drawn, lost, the points that they've got, and it's really all easy to understand. And this is what I was saying before about some data providers. In fact, a lot of data providers, they just sort of throw the raw data at you, and just get you to compute all the stats and stuff. But you can see here how easy it would be for you to just grab all of the goals, or just do a quick comparison between goals for on average at home, or how easy it would be for you to rank all of the teams in this response by a certain stat, or how easy it would be for you to plot them all out on graphs, charts, tables. I'm creating this for Odd Alerts, right? So that's why I think the API is going to be very beneficial for people, just because of the ease of access, the context around the endpoints. This is a team stats endpoint. You can search by season right now. You can even view the frozen stats per fixture. So what were the stats for Man United just before they played Man City a few weeks ago? You can just go and see that pretty quickly. You've got BTTS percentage, you've got fouls in here, yellow cards, red cards. the over and under for cards, over and under for corners, and more to come. Yeah, certainly more to come. One of the things that I've got to develop right now into this is the last X games. So slightly different to the frozen data, but the ability to see what their data was for the last 5 games at a certain point in time. So you can see how there is a lot of data being saved there for every moment in time, every last X as well. And then you've got all the frozen stats and whatnot. So a lot of data, but that's why it was important to start from zero with this new data structure, because the previous system is just not completely scalable in this way. That's why you can't backtest on last X rules. That's why you can use it on upcoming games only, because at the moment I'm just saving the last X games right now. How many have they won in the last 10 at the moment? That's what you can filter for. Still very, very valuable information, by the way. But technically, to save all that other data, new structure was needed. So that's what I'm working on. And as I say, it will power a lot of new features going forward. An app is also coming soon that will be available for season ticket holders and API users, API subscribers to test as part of the Odd Alerts lab. And the first thing that the app will do, it will have one purpose, and that is to replace Telegram in terms of the alerts. You can still use Telegram if you like, but when you use the app, you'll be able to have different feeds of alerts. So you could just look at all of your player foul alerts in a single place. You could look at all of your pinnacle dropping odds alerts. You could look at all of your alerts on live odds. And also coming with that is a new way to set alerts, a completely rebuilt, advanced alert builder that will have so much functionality and value as well. You know, setting up a filter and then saying, this is what I want to do with it. Some of these tasks are automated, some of them are post-processing, if you will. So when these games finish, or every 6 hours, or every 4 days, whatever, you set it up, do this. Let me know this. And building that with complete customization and flexibility is going to be tough, but worth it. I can't thank the community enough for the support and the feedback and everything this year. Hope you all have a good Christmas if you're celebrating it. If not, if you've got time off work, bonus. And a happy new year wherever you may be. It's been a great year at Odd Alerts, and I hope you've had a great year as well. And I will see you in the next one.